the home for film, television, and video game music since 1996. This is Cinematic Sound.
That was the main title theme from the television show called Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, which aired from 1993 to 1997. And the original score was composed by Jay Gruska. Welcome back to Cinematic Sound Radio. You're listening to it right here on W Rock Radio, and of course, always streaming at cinematicsound.net on demand. My name is Eric Woods, and I'm your host, and I hope you're enjoying today's program. This is our second hour, and to open up this second hour, we're going to feature some new music for you, which includes a critically acclaimed film that no one saw coming. When the trailer was released, people had no idea that this film was actually in production. The film's called 10 Cloverfield Lane, and is the spiritual successor to the 2008 film Cloverfield, the beloved science fiction monster horror film. Now, a spiritual successor is a successor to a work of fiction which does not build upon the storyline established by a previous work. In this film, we have Mary Elizabeth Winstead, John Goodman, and John Gallagher Jr. starring. The original score for the film was composed by Bear McCreary, who was actually hired on to score the film 2 years before the film's release, and even before casting was finalized. With the producer's blessing, Bear McCreary went full steam ahead and assembled 4 different ensembles for this score. And if you know anything about Bear McCreary, he goes all out when writing his music, whether for a film, TV show, or video game. For this score, we get a traditional 90-piece orchestra, a smaller 45-piece string ensemble, a group of 30 celli and 8 bass, and a string quartet, also known as the Calder Quartet. He combined these performances with 2 unusual instruments. The Yaeli tambour, which is a very distinctive instrument which McCreary has used many times before, and the blaster beam. Now, the blaster beam is something you might know of. It's an experimental instrument built and played by Craig Huxley, best known for its use in Jerry Goldsmith's score to Star Trek The Motion Picture and John Barry's The Black Hole. Now, Bear McCreary reached out to Huxley and was actually invited to explore the instrument. And when he heard it for the first time live in front of his very own face and through his own ears, he knew he had to use the instrument in this score. The score McCreary crafted is one of the finest scores of the year, and it's one of the finest of Bear McCreary's career. It's right up there with his best music from Battlestar Galactica, Da Vinci's Demons, and Human Target. The Bernard Herrmann-esque score has delighted film critics and film music fans alike. With this film's success at the box office, one can only hope that this is finally the ticket Bear McCreary has been waiting for to move on from TV and start scoring larger, more cinematic fare. Goodness knows he deserves it. And now I'm very pleased to present music from 10 Cloverfield Lane, with original score composed by Bear McCreary. Music from the original motion picture soundtrack to 10 Cloverfield Lane, with original score composed by Bear McCreary, and the original soundtrack recording is available on Sparks and Shadows Music.
The home for film, television, and video game music since 1996. This is Cinematic Sound.
Welcome back to Cinematic Sound Radio. You're listening to it right here on W Rock Radio, and of course, you can listen to it all the time, streaming on demand at cinematicsound.net. Up next is our video game score of the week, and it comes from the 2013 game Batman Arkham Origins, which was the successor to the 2011 video game Batman Arkham City, and is the third main installment in the Batman Arkham series. The game is set 5 years before that of 2009's Batman Arkham Asylum, and follows a younger, less refined Batman. A bounty is placed on him by crime lord Black Mask, drawing 8 of the world's greatest assassins to Gotham City on Christmas Eve. The villains, including the Joker and Anarchy, take advantage of the chaos to launch nefarious schemes while Gotham City police try to apprehend Batman. The score was written by the ridiculously talented Christopher Drake. The game is a prequel set years before the events in Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. This is set roughly around year 2 of Batman donning the cape. As such, this is a younger Batman and not quite as refined in skill, and hasn't got a handle on harnessing his anger and vengeance. The game director, Eric Holmes, wanted the music to reflect this. The score represents a younger Batman, faster, rough around the edges, and violent. The music progresses from the beginning of the game as more electronic and more traditional orchestral music towards the end of the game. And now I'm very pleased to present music from our video game score of the week, Batman Arkham Origins, with original score composed by Christopher Drake. Music from the video game Batman Arkham Origins, with original score composed by Christopher Drake, and the original soundtrack recording is available on Water Tower Music. Up next is our re-recording of the week, and it comes from the spectacular fourth film music recording Eric Kunzel did with the Cincinnati Pops Orchestra called Fantastic Journey. The album is an incredible collection of music written for some of the most popular science fiction and fantasy films. The album opens up with a splendid 15-minute suite dedicated to Danny Elfman's classic score to Tim Burton's 1989 film Batman, starring Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. The suite on this album comprises of 7 tracks, including the brilliant finale music that might just very well be the best piece of finale music I've ever heard. And now the wonderful Cincinnati Pops Orchestra, conducted by the late Eric Kunzel, performs Danny Elfman's Batman. That was our re-recording of the week, 1989's Batman, as performed by the Cincinnati Pops Orchestra, conducted by Eric Kunzel. And that suite, along with many other suites of classic science fiction and fantasy music, is available on an album called Fantastic Journey from Telarc Records.
On the air and streaming on the web since 1996, this is Cinematic Sound.
Welcome back to Cinematic Sound Radio. You're listening to it right here on WRock Radio and streaming on demand at cinematicsound.net. We've sadly come to the end of yet another edition of Cinematic Sound Radio right here on Rock On Radio, WRock Radio. Again, thanks to everyone at WRock for helping me get this show on the WRock airwaves. Feel free to reach out to Cinematic Sound Radio by emailing me at cinematicsound@yahoo.com. And don't forget to visit cinematicsound.net to hear an archived version of this show and years of previous programming as well. And if you have a request or album that you'd like to hear me play, please email me at cinematicsound@yahoo.com. And just to let you know, on next week's program, we will return with our Film Music Vault series, as we will listen to a score from Hollywood's Golden Age, a score that was actually selected by you, the fans, on Twitter. And you can visit Cinematic Sound on Twitter at CinSoundRadio. And after each program, we will put up 4 more scores for you to vote for, and you can pick what you want to hear right here on Cinematic Sound Radio. And for our last suite, we're going to listen to music from some animated Batman, Superman features and TV shows. We're going to open up with 2 Shirley Walker pieces. We'll play music from Superman, the animated series. We'll play the short end title piece, and then we'll play the short end title piece from Batman, the animated series, which features themes by Shirley Walker and Danny Elfman. And then we'll move on to a animated movie called Son of Batman, with original score composed by Frederick Wiedmann. And we'll listen to his spectacular, almost 4.5-minute end credit piece from that 2014 movie. Thanks again for tuning in, folks. My name is Eric Woods, and I've been your host for the past 2 hours of film music right here on WRock Radio and on CinematicSound.net. We'll see you next time.